Hello everyone, Adam Warfield here, and welcome to my summary for Pokécheck Sprint 3. For those of you wondering, Pokécheck is a hack checker for the competitive Pokemon community. So let's just jump right in here and take a look at my goals for this sprint. So last sprint, I left off in a position where I was having trouble connecting the database to my application. So that was my first goal for the sprint. Outside of that, I decided to take a little break from the database. Originally, I was supposed to do some more functionality associated with the database for the sprint, but I spent a lot of time on stuff like that in Sprint 2, and I wanted a little break and a little more time to plan some of that functionality. So I decided to do a few smaller things that were supposed to be in Sprint 4 originally. I just bumped them up and decided to fill my time with those this week. So those things were to create the info view, enable access to the rules document. That one gave me some trouble, but we'll get into that later. I wanted to create the global rules in the hack check. Now these would actually be the first set of rules in the hack checker, so we'll finally be able to run an actual hack check this week. Won't be a complete one, but we can check some of the variables that contribute to whether or not a Pokemon is hacked. And finally, I wanted to add a level field exception handling. So basically, I need to parse an integer out of that field. So before I take it in, I need to make sure that that field is containing an integer. And if not, I need to inform the user that they need to enter a valid number in that field. All right, so now we are just going to hop over to the demos. All right, so we're going to hop into our user-facing demo here. You are currently looking at the Pokécheck view, or as I like to call it, the checker view. This is where users conduct the actual hack check. Visually, not much has changed from last sprint. However, there are quite a few functional changes that we'll get into right now. So first of all, you can actually conduct a hack check. According to the singular current rule I have in there, all this is fine. Currently, there's still no moves and abilities. Those will get in there next week when I polish up some joins in the database. But as of now, all this info, according to the application, is fine. So in order to fail it, the current rule is that a Pokemon cannot be in a Master Ball or a Cherish Ball and be from the daycare helpers. So we'll start looking at that with a Cherish Ball. So you see it says it failed because a Pokemon cannot be in a Cherish Ball and from the daycare helpers, as I had previously said. However, it's important that this application gives reasoning for a failed check. That will enable users to know what's going on, avoid it in the future, or try to make sure their Pokemon are legal. So if we switch it to Master Ball, well, the same thing happen. The words here will switch to Master Ball. So the other major thing I did was with exception handling for the level field here. So say I put in a number here rather than a letter rather than a number, and I try to run a check. It prompts me to enter an integer from level 1 to 100. I believe it should still do the same thing if I do something over 100. So you can't really tell, but it did update there. If I switch it to a valid level to demo that, so it'll pass. Then if I go over 100 there, it'll prompt me again to enter it. So those are the big changes to the checker view this week. That's some very important functionality that's been added. So now we're going to hop over to our info and instructions. So this is the second view here. Basically, it just thanks users for using Pokécheck. Thought that would be nice to have. Credits, I'm crediting myself as the main creator. Special thanks to the Penn State Pokemon Society, which is my club. They've helped me a lot with some testing and ideas for it. And my mother, Joni Barnoff, for helping me with some code and a little bit of work on the database. Disclaimers, I just wanted to make sure that people knew that this application is in no way associated with the Pokemon Company International, and a Pokemon may still be hacked even if it passes the hack check. Some methods are undetectable. I thought that was just all very important information to get out to the user. Eventually, I'll put some instructions in here as well. I just want to make sure that I know how everything's functioning so I can provide the best instructions possible. Now, this button down here is where I ran into some issues. So it's supposed to pull up a rules document. It's the official Pokemon rules document for the 2017 Video Game Championship Series. And with my code that we'll get into later, to the best of my knowledge, it should be working. However, when I hit it, we get all kinds of errors down here. I'll be working to patch that up at the beginning of next sprint. I spent a couple hours on this sprint and was really getting nowhere, so I decided to move on and work on some other things. So now we will hop into our code walkthrough. All right, so we're going to start this code walkthrough here in the checker view, and we'll start by taking a look at the error handling and the level select. So the way I did that was we started by creating an integer, just integer I, saying it equal to 0. And then we try to parse that integer. And then we're catching exceptions, but we're not really doing anything with that because I used other methods to display the errors. But basically, I had to make the integer I to make sure that I had something to return. So then basically, we're going to go out to the checker controller and show how that is used. So here we are. So basically, that's used when we use that check button listener. So when we actually do the check, we get the integer from view.getLevel. So then if I is greater than or equal to 1 or less than and less than or equal to 100, then we'll actually run the check down here. If not, it sends back that error message to enter a valid level. So just real quick, back to the view. Part of the reason why I just decided to set equal to 0. So if it fails to parse the integer, it sends that right back out to the model or to the controller as 0. And then they'll get the same message regardless. It was a nice way to make sure that the application didn't crash. It's really smoothed a lot of things over. So back to the view, there's one other thing to show in here. It's just displaying the results. We take in the string for them. If the results are passed, we set the color to green. If not, we set the color to red. It's just a good way to add further clarity to what the results are. Just kind of an indicator of whether it passed or failed immediately, and then they can go into reading it. So next we will hop over to the model. So for the global rules, the only thing we are concerned about are the ball and the daycare, or whether or not it's from the daycare. So we get those up here. We just set the string to return as passed. And then if it fails, so if it's in a cherish ball or it's in a master ball and it's from the daycare, it returns failed, and then a Pokemon cannot be in, and then the ball, and from the daycare helpers. So that's what's adding the explanation. It sends it back to the view there to be displayed. Okay, now excuse me, I am going to pause for a second to get my bearings. All right, I apologize for that, but just one other thing to show here in the checker model. So you may remember in the PowerPoint presentation in the beginning, I talked about getting connected to the database. I tried to do that then the last sprint, and I had some issues with it. So this is where we establish the connection here. I don't actually do anything with that. I just wanted to make sure I was able to. So basically, I had all this code last week. I was just missing one of these colons here. So that was a pretty easy fix. Got up and running pretty quickly. So now we'll hop over into the stuff pertaining to the info view. So here I just used the GUI builder and NetBeans again. It makes things go a lot faster so I can focus on the functionality more. So basically, we just have a method to add the action listener for the button at the bottom there. Controller, here we actually do add the action listener. And then in the model, we have this method to open rules. So basically, the logic here is we have the path to the file up here. We get their desktop, which is supposed to get their default application to open the PDF, and then we actually open the rules with it. However, every time I run that, as you saw, I get those errors. That'll be my first goal for next sprint, to get that ironed out. But yeah, the info view is pretty simple. There's not, or all the information stuff, the model view and controller are all pretty simple. Not a whole lot going on there, but overall, I'm happy with the progress I made this sprint, and I'll be reporting back again in 2 weeks. Thanks for watching.